Hello
Give me a
everyone.
minute.
While I was recording the video, I forgot to mention the page at the very end of the book, the about info about the author Austin Channing Brown. So I'm just gonna read that to you guys for a minute. Austin Channing Brown is a speaker, writer, and media producer providing inspired leadership on racial justice in America. She is the author of I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness, and the executive producer of the web series, The Next Question. Her writing and work have been featured by outlets such as The On Being Project, The Chicago Tribune, Christianity Today, Sojourners, Shondaland, and WNYC. Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well. My name is TJ Black. Today, I'm going to be reviewing a book that I finished reading today called I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness by Austin Channing Brown. So, what this book is about a Black American woman, Austin Channing Brown. She talks about her experiences growing up as a kid, going to church, her things of her childhood, and systemic racism, the challenges she experienced being a Black woman, working, having a job, and also being a teacher in churches and stuff like that, having to deal with white supremacy, systemic racism and stuff, and just police brutality, a lot of systemic racism, stuff like that. And it was interesting to learn the perspective of this person, because I never heard of Austin Channing Brown before. I randomly found this book at a public library that I go to pretty frequently at the Public Valley Park up in Stone Church, where I live in Hamilton. Found this book one day and it looked interesting. It's about systemic racism, and I just wanted to read it so I could learn a bit more. I know the gist of blacks, systemic racism in America. Police brutality, and a lot of people of my color, what we've been through, and the Rodney Kings and the George Floyds, stuff like that. Stuff like that is really not easy to talk about. It's very triggering shit. It's controversial, and I can see why. But stuff like that's been going on for a long time. Not just in America, but in the whole world. Racism is something that's never going to go away. But as long as we could be aware of it and try to make the world a better place by being positive and actually accepting people, and not judging them based on their skin or culture or languages or ways of thinking and speaking, because a lot of people in the community, people who are on the spectrum like me, people even lower on the spectrum, neurodivergent people, that's what I like to call my people now, we get looked down upon because of our physical and mental challenges, and it's like I said before, it's not right. And just spreading awareness when it comes to these issues, being accepted for who we are, it really does help, because kids growing up, they should learn about this stuff. I feel like they should, because a lot of kids nowadays, they don't get taught this stuff. They spend a lot of their free time on phones, on social media, and TikTok, watching dumb videos that are not educational at all, just dumb goofy shit. Or school, a lot of times schools don't really talk about stuff like this. They do kind of briefly, but they mostly just talk about stuff that helps you get a job, a career, I guess, or something. If you go to a business program, they're going to teach you about numbers and how to start a business, and history. The history classes I went to in school, the only Black people they talked about that I can remember is Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, and Malcolm X. Those guys were icons, legends, but they didn't really talk about they didn't touch too much on stuff like this, because I guess it's not appropriate for school, but I feel like people should still learn about stuff like this, because it is very serious issues. And I'm someone who doesn't like politics. I'll be honest. I actually hate politics, and I know there was an election that went on recently in America. I don't care. I don't follow any of that stuff. So yeah. The thing that I just wanted to talk about this book, because just in case there's some of you guys who don't know a whole lot about these serious topics like systemic racism and being judged because you're black, and whiteness, white supremacy, and stuff like that, then I feel like this book is a decent read. To be honest, I didn't really learn a whole lot about any new information about systemic racism. All the stuff Austin and Channing Brown talks about, I already knew about. It was interesting to read about her perspective and her story. And I gotta say, the audiobook and Audible, it's actually narrated by the author Austin Channing Brown. She does a decent job, but she's not an actress. She's not gonna win like an Academy Award for best narration in an audiobook or anything like that. But she did a decent enough job. It wasn't robotic. It was very natural, and I could tell she was very passionate about her story. I think she did a solid job. I recommend it if any of you guys are into listening to audiobooks. But yeah, the book is not that long. It's only 100 and something chapters, 180 something chapters, less than 200. No, 180 something pages. I mean, not chapters. 185 pages. It's pretty short. My flaws with the book is I wish it was longer, to be honest, because I just feel like the story was a little bit uncooked. Like she did talk about her childhood and going to church and stuff like that. By the way, I'm not a huge religious person, but like I am spiritual, and I do think there's a higher power. There's just a God or Jesus, but I'm just not into the religious aspect. It's just not my thing, personally. But to each of the people who I know who are into the religious stuff, good for you. I'm not gonna judge, but like to me, it doesn't really appeal to me personally. I'm into the spiritual stuff, but I'm not into the religious aspect. But anyway, she talks about growing up and going to church, and then all of the hate crimes that went on in the churches she went, and stuff like that. It's just stuff I knew about, but it was just interesting to read and listen to her own perspective on it all, and just her talking about some people she looked up to, and even like friends that were black and she learned from, and just her talking about her her personal journey. And also she did mention at the very end, the last chapter, that she did like an interlude to her kid, talking about her kid, because she, at the time when she made this book, she was pregnant at the time. This book came out like a few years ago. I'm pretty sure it came out in 2021, something like that. So a few years ago. It's not that old of a book, but at the time she had a baby, and she did an interlude about her son, and it was very touching, very sweet. I'm not gonna say exactly what she said, but it was very nice. She's a nice lady, she's a nice lady. I had never met her personally, but I would say this book for me, would I read it again? Honestly, I mean, I thought the book was decent for what it was, but I personally wouldn't reread it again, because a lot of the times when I reread a book, if it's like a self-help book, a memoir, I reread it to get some new information, or to reread it so I could process the information a lot better. Like I've done that with The Start Around Making a Folk of Mark Manson. That's a great self-help book, and even some others that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But this book, all the stuff that she talked about, like systemic racism and like white supremacy and like stuff in America, stuff I already knew about. I was educated on it already. I just thought like her talking about it was, she did a decent enough job, talking about those issues in America, and just being honest, and saying we deserve to be heard and representation, and just spreading awareness to this, because this is not ever going to go away. But nowadays we still have these issues, it just isn't as severe as it was back then, but it's still an issue regardless, and she does touch on that, which is true. For me, it's kind of hard to rate that. So I'll say the audiobook. The audiobook was pretty solid. I would say the audiobook made it. The audiobook, I don't know, I'll probably say it was like a 7. It was good. The book itself, like I said, I thought it was kind of like a bit too short, kind of undercooked. For me, the book itself, I would probably give a 6 out of 10. It's just like, I thought it was a decent read. I took my time with it. I could have finished this in one day because it's a really short book. I took a couple weeks to finish it. I got this book back in, I think, early October or late September. I don't even remember, but I took my sweet time with this book. So yeah, I would say the book is decent. If you're someone who doesn't know a whole lot about, systemic racism and, racial issues and, in the workplace, how toxic it could be, when it comes to like racism in the workplace and even like, hate crimes and stuff. If you want to learn more about that, if you don't know like much at all about it, I see this book as a decent enough read. Or if you just want to read a book made by someone who's, who's black, who's in the community, who's dealt with those issues. Because that's the reason why I read the book, because I was just curious to know about this person's side of the story, what they went through in their lifetime. So yeah, it's kind of over the place, but yeah, I'm gonna talk about the chapters that really caught my attention, because I talked about chapters that caught my attention in a previous book I reviewed called Disability Intimacy. That book I would say I prefer, because it was just talking about stuff that I feel like is more important to me. Like, don't get me wrong, systemic racism is a huge issue, but talking about intimacy with people in my community, people who are like me and have even more challenges, people who are neurodivergent, such as myself, those things were very important, and they were meaningful to me. It was just more impactful to me. But like, I would say the audiobook for Disability Intimacy wasn't as good, because like I said in that review, there are times where it sounded like AI. But yeah, I'm just gonna mention the chapters that caught my attention. And they're out of order, by the way. I didn't write down every single chapter that caught my attention, because there's some chapters that were just kind of okay. I would say most of them were a decent enough read. I wasn't on the edge of my seat. I didn't love the book, but yeah, I'm just gonna say a couple of chapters. First one, Interlude, Why I Love Being a Black Girl. That was an interesting one. She talked about why she loves being black, and it was very inspirational. And it was very inspirational, and she's a very confident and intelligent woman. She definitely knows her stuff. She does her research. She knows a lot about black culture. And Ain't No Friends Here. From what I remember, that's the one where she talked about her experience at the workplace and having dealing with some racist coworkers, some Karens. So it was a decent read. The Other Side of Harmony, I don't remember exactly what that one was about, but that one I remember being interesting to find out if you ever read the book. Whiteness at Work, that's the one we're talking about, the racism of the workplace. Ain't No Friends Here, I think that's the one where she talked about her church and some white people who are racist in the church. It's kind of a blur for me, because there are times I kind of just wasn't keeping up with it all, but I do remember the topic she talked about. I don't remember every single detail, but White Fragility, that was decent. Next, Nice White People, white people who are nice. She didn't try to write the book to say that she was prejudiced and thinks all white people are racist. She was just talking about the ones who are, and then she talked about the ones that actually are respectful and they do care about diversity and minorities. The story we tell, she pretty much, in that chapter, she talked about the stories black people tell about our journeys with not just systemic racism, but like, a bunch of other things, life lessons and stuff like that. Creative anger. That chapter, for example, she talked about trauma and anger she had from like the people she encountered that were racist and disrespectful to her, and were crossing boundaries. So she did talk about her being a teacher, and then she had like a student or adult student who was the white guy who was disrespectful to her, and just pretty much calling her and challenging her because her being black and talking to her in a type of disrespectful way, and feeling like he had a superiority over her, and just trying to excuse bad behavior, and just saying like, I'm trying to remember, but like I think that was a chapter where she talks about like white people that think like all black people are criminals, gangsters, or thieves, just stereotypical shit like that. And she was talking about like people she had to deal with, white students and stuff that were very disrespectful, and they're talking to her to some kind of way because they just assumed that she was a criminal or not a good person because of her race, which is fucked up. And we are still here. That one, she talks about as a community, we are still here. Black people, all the turmoil and trauma we've went through, all the messed up shit from way back in the day that we've been getting screwed over for centuries, because of racism and just all that messed up baggage. But we're here today as people, and we're loud and proud just to be who we are, and to call out negative and toxic stuff like this, because that stuff never should have been acceptable. But back then it was hard for people like me to have a voice. I'm not gonna go on the whole details because all of that is like very, very dark topics. But yeah, and then the last chapter, Standing in the Shadow of Hope, that was good. Yeah, that was a pretty good one. She was just talking about having hope, even though it's like those times where our hope is like invisible, like not shown, but she still has hope for us all to have a voice and to be heard. So suggestions or feedback, let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Did my best to talk about the book, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my little review. It wasn't the most in-depth, but yeah, I thought the book was okay. It was decent. I'll give it like a 6. The audiobook was a 7, but this book was a 6. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. And yeah, if you guys liked the video, please comment and subscribe. Hope you guys all have a good night. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you guys live. But the people I know that are watching this, hope you guys all have a good night, or a good rest of your day. My name is TJ Black, signing off. Take care, guys. Bye for now.